world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Phil Spencer is looking at what is next for Xbox after Starfield, and EA is cutting a huge number of jobs at BioWare. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa, everybody. Jan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was frantically looking around me for a fun prop to bring in, and I'm propless despite being covered in stuff.
Creaky Legs sent me this along with a VCR that I was trying to find. And now I have to have this Batman disgusting paraphernalia in my home, and it's
was that a threat?
It feels like a threat. I got a Batarang for audio listeners. Huh. There you go. It's got a little like stand on it, so it can be presented proudly in my home. The kids were. I'm like, hey, do you like? They saw it. And they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh yeah, it's a Batarang. You want to go like show mama? So like you have something to do? And they're like, no, I don't care about this. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Jan, it's flooding here. It's been raining.
It's flooding?
Yeah, flooding. Like the I-90, our major highway that like runs like along Lake Erie. It flooded so bad that they had to send out the inflatable rafts to go rescue like 10 cars that were stuck. And it was up to their windows, the water level. So pretty rough out there. A lot of my neighbors, their basements have flooded, and right here I can hear my sump pump going. So I just need everyone sump pump. I just need everyone to like spirit bomb energy my sump pump and just be like, keep working, baby, keep working, just keep doing your thing. It's so dry down here, it rules, but it's all thanks to the sump pump. So
sump pump, that's right. No simp pump today. Sump pump.
We're not, but we do simp for the sump pump. To be clear.
Yes,
absolutely.
Simp the sump.
I feel like a lot of times I'm like, man, I pay a lot for this place, and it's we didn't have a lot of choices, but still we paid a lot for this place. But I'm like, man, I'm glad we got the one that did have like the super waterproof basement. That was actually totally worth it. So on days like this. We looked at the weather. It looks like a hurricane coming out of Lake Erie because it's just like this big rainy weather system, and it's circling over us over and over again. Like, that's not supposed to happen. It's weird. It's bad.
I'm sorry, Grubb. I'm giving you all of my energy.
Thank you.
I will bear the heat wave that San Francisco is currently in. I will bear the 75-degree temperatures.
Oh, baby, I'm so sorry.
Grubb, I was walking the pup yesterday. Overheard this conversation between two older people. It's like, I can't believe it's 74 right now. Well, my car said it was 75. I don't think I could do this heat. we got out of the car, we got back in.
Listen, I'm with them. I get it. If it was 65 all year round, and then suddenly it was 75, I would be the exact same way. Like, this is unacceptable. I changed my whole life to be in this weird San Francisco climate that doesn't make any sense anywhere else in the world. And now it's like, what? I gotta be 75 degrees? No way! I'm sweating. I disagree with that. I
smell a Curb episode somewhere.
It's happened all over the place. People dealing with natural disasters and weather stuff. It's a whole thing. But thanks everybody for joining us. We're gonna talk about the news here in a second, but first let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting, which I have a little bit of that for you today. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you're watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with EA's Bioware will lay off 50 and cut ties with unionized Keywords playtesting group. This is from Dean Takahashi at GameSpeak. Electronic Arts said that its Bioware studio based in Edmonton, Canada is laying off 50 people on the team, even as Dragon Age Dreadwolf is in its late stages of development. The layoffs will likely be a blow to morale at the studio and make the development environment more difficult. Gary McKay, general manager of the developer, told employees in a statement today that the move is meant to make the EA-owned developer a more agile and more focused studio. EA has an estimated 12,000 to 13,000 employees, and BioWare has around 250 people. So this is about 1/5 of their staff, Jan. This is not related to the movement of Star Wars: The Old Republic to that new studio that's outside of EA. This is completely unrelated to that. This is directly affecting all the games that people might be concerned about with the future of BioWare. In order to meet the needs of our upcoming projects, to continue to hold ourselves to the highest standards of quality and ensure BioWare can continue to thrive in an industry that's rapidly evolving, we must shift towards a more agile and more focused studio, McKay said. It will allow our developers to iterate quickly, unlock more creativity, and form a clear vision of what we're building before development ramps up. He added, to achieve this, we find ourselves in a position where change is not only necessary but unavoidable. As difficult as this is to say, rethinking our approach to development inevitably means reorganizing our team to match the studio's changing needs. As part of this transition, we are eliminating approximately 50 roles at BioWare. This is deeply painful and humbling to write. We are doing everything we can to ensure the process is handled with empathy, respect, and clear communication. They said, Jan, that they are looking to provide opportunities for all of these employees to apply for other jobs that are open at other EA studios, although they expect not everyone will land on their feet within EA. They're probably going to have to go elsewhere because not everyone's going to be able to get a job within EA. When we hear this, Jan, I mean, I guess, what's your current feeling on BioWare?
I guess I just wasn't really thinking of BioWare. They weren't really occupying a lot of my brain space in the last couple months. Dragon Age Dreadwolf, like you mentioned, got announced, and I was like, oh wow, that's going to be a lot of work. And it is now going to especially be a lot of work with these layoffs. I thought the corpo tech word I hated the most was disrupt. Grubb, I think my new word that whenever I see it in announcements like this is agile.
Agile. Yep. Yeah.
It's like
agile always doesn't. It never means the people at the top need to be thinking more quickly, or need to take a pay cut, or need to come up with ideas of their own. It always means we need to pay fewer people less money. Like that's it's always an excuse to make these job cuts.
It's like no one at the top really thinks like, why? I don't know, Grubb. I feel like this, excuse my naivete, but like, hey, if I'm at the top and I'm already making millions, I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take a pay cut so these other people below me that I have maybe built a relationship with, have maybe seen on a day-to-day basis, if not like at least online, exchanged emails with, been in a Zoom call with, seen faces, exchanged fun, pleasant emails, maybe so they don't have to fucking lose their jobs. And then I am now overworking and burning bridges with my current existing employees that are staying.
And you could tell how all of that, what you just said, and like that is encompassed in that word agile, works backwards from, we are now in a relationship with an outside firm that is unionized, and that means they are going to make demands upon us, and that will ruin our agility. Boy, we need to be agile, and working with unions means we can't be agile. And it's like, well, that's not exactly what it means. It's just the kind of thing that you get grumpy about, having to listen to what other people might need to make the job worth it to them. And you don't ever want to consider that. You are only worried about your bottom line. And everyone sees through this. Everyone listening to the show knows that. We know that. They know that. It is this song and dance they put on. And here we are. Obviously, the people are, the people losing their jobs is front and foremost the thing that people are concerned about here. Other people also are worried about, hey, what does this mean for the games that BioWare was working on? They commented on that. I believe this is Andy McKay again. Our commitment remains steadfast, and we are all working to make this game, the Dragon Age, worthy of the Dragon Age name. We are confident that we'll have the time needed to ensure Dragon Age reaches its full potential. I can also tell you that every member of our team, even those departing BioWare, deserves credit for crafting a spectacular experience. These are our colleagues and friends, and we would not be here without them. I am so proud of all the work our team has done. While this is an extremely difficult day for everyone at BioWare, we are making changes now to build a brighter future. We're excited for all of you to see what we've been building with Dreadwolf. A core team led by Mike Gamble continues their pre-production work on the next Mass Effect. Our commitment to quality continues to be our North Star. So, Jan, I did a little bit of looking into this to see kind of like what's the status, because in the past on this show on Grub Snacks we've talked about Dragon Age Dreadwolf. People are very thirsty for information coming out about BioWare. And for a while there, it was like Dragon Age could have come out this year. In fact, internally at one point, the date that they were looking at was next month, September 2023. But internally, Dragon Age 4 keeps getting pushed back. They moved the internal expectations to March 2024 a while ago. March 2024, pretty soon, right? Well, guess what?
That's very close.
It's not coming out then either. They pushed it back again. It is not coming out until summer 2024 at the earliest at this point. And this is not them talking publicly. This is just from my reporting. So if it moves again, don't be surprised in any way, because I think it's very likely it moves back even further. I expect this game probably to launch by the end of next year, but why launch at the end of next year when you can get out before the end of fiscal in March 2025? This thing could keep moving. Right now, though, again, summer 2024 is what they're looking at the earliest. This is the kind of thing where it's, well, how are they going to do that with fewer people? Well, guess what? They're bringing people in from the Mass Effect team. The Mass Effect team is being drained a little bit so that more people can come work on Dragon Age Dreadwolf. And that naturally means Mass Effect is getting pushed further down the line as well. So don't expect that anytime soon. Most people weren't, but push it back even further in your heads, because Mass Effect is definitely being affected by this. It's going to come out later. Let's see. So the why of all this, Jan, so why BioWare particular? I think most people can figure out, BioWare's had a string of not hits, at the very least. And some of them were kind of, bad pumpkins on really, just like rotten pumpkins there that you got it. You open it up and it looks inside and no one wanted to deal with this. And so okay, that's one thing. But it's that's been true for a long time. So why is it happening suddenly? There's been some changes. For one, Apex Legends is on the decline. That's just, they've talked about this publicly a little bit. They had high expectations for the latest season of Apex Legends, and then they told investors that they were too aggressive and too optimistic with those expectations. And then internally, they are now looking at it like Apex Legends is on the decline. We do not necessarily expect it to reach the heights it once was at. And we're kind of looking at a long-term end of life for that game. Not like it's suddenly going to go away, but not that it's also going to be this driver of growth for EA. It probably isn't going to be, and they're no longer looking at that. So that's got them tightening their belts a little bit. Then there's the change to EA's corporate structure. This is another major thing that's kind of causing people to look at BioWare a little bit more, with a little bit more skepticism. And that is, there used to be EA, and it was everything. And now there is EA Entertainment and EA Sports, and these things are operating separately. And there was a time when FIFA Ultimate Team and Madden Ultimate Team, that money was covering everybody. And now, when they look at the books, the EA Madden and FIFA Ultimate Team money is over there, and BioWare is over here with all these other studios. Apex Legends was in there, but Apex Legends no longer covering everybody either. So it's like, okay, well, we're looking at BioWare. They're not bringing in a lot of money, and we're spending a lot of money. So what are we doing there? And that leads to them cutting jobs. And now it's okay. They're going to try to put out Dragon Age. Does that turn things around? That's the hope. But right now they're operating on the expectations that, or the reality that the studio is costing money. Its cost has racked up over the last several years, but last 4 or 5 years especially, the costs have been racked up without a lot of big game releases, other than the Mass Effect trilogy. And then so they're trying to cut somewhere, and here we are. When you hear all that, Jan, do you still have hopes for the future of BioWare?
It's really hard to see a bright side in any of this, because I was not an existing fan of the Dragon Age series,
right?
But now especially this has sullied that for me. Yeah, with BioWare specifically, it's one of those studios where it's like, hey, I'm always interested in what you do. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. But I hope y'all are doing okay. But with the mismanagement happening here, it just seems like it's leaving a bad taste in my mouth, especially. And I don't know how much of this carries over into the mainstream audience.
Right.
I just feel terrible for all of the devs involved, everyone below the line here, because not only the folks, of course, that lost their jobs. Sure, they may get moved around to EA, but that seems like an empty promise at this point. It's also these folks that are going to have to crunch for what might be 1.5 years, Grubb, right? Before this game even comes out.
Yeah.
And who knows even after it comes out, if it's going to be in like a good state, or if it's going to be an instance where a publisher's like, we just need to get this out of the door.
That happened to Andromeda. It happened with Anthem. So
exactly, like the track record is there of pushing a game out before it's completely ready. Not just at EA, but several other publishers, as we've seen. Grubb, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. I want to say, hey, unionize, right?
Right.
And of course, like I want to promote that, of course. But it seems like the publishers straight from the top will be like, nah, we don't want to work with you.
Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, you unionize and we'll walk away. Jesus. I think internally, if you unionize at a publisher, maybe you have a little bit more protection from that sort of thing happening, but not necessarily. Like you could just as easily find yourself in a situation where the studio finds a creative way to not have to deal with a union.
Let's eliminate yachts.
Yeah, right. Man, super yachts. Whenever I'm like, man, that's just, there's clearly something broken when someone could afford a $250 million yacht for themselves. This is, the writing was on the wall here. Back when the split happened with EA and then becoming EA Sports and EA Entertainment, Andrew Wilson said, and we're doing this restructuring to empower our studio leaders with more creative ownership and financial accountability. And it was right there. They said it, right? It's like, each studio is going to be accountable for itself and its own money.
What about the people at top have the financial accountability?
Yep.
What about that?
Yeah. And it's, I think whenever the financial accountability to them always looks like it's not finished. Who cares? Put the game out. Like that's what they think accountability looks like.
And like if once this game eventually launches, and if it does poorly because it is performing poorly, who are they going to blame? They're not going to blame the people at the top. They're going to blame these individual studio leaders who they have empowered with their creative ownership. Right,
like
nothing is going to go faster
to this because Mike Gamble is in charge of Mass Effect. He was, I think, one of the leaders on Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda, and so people are like, "Well, I'm not excited for Mass Effect." And it's like, I don't really think it was his fault. It was clearly the leadership above him pushing those games out before they were ready.
You just want to shake people sometimes,
Yes, definitely.
Or just like jump people. This is an instance of like, I'm gonna jump someone after this.
Find someone in an alley. Just do something. Just go wild. VR Jeff is gonna come for you. You watch out at that point.
No one wants that.
Nobody wants that. I don't.
That is a terrifying entity.
My children are afraid of VR Jeff. You guys got to watch out. Dragon Age Dreadwolf maybe next year. Mass Effect after that. EA has had some success with its single player games recently. But
which doesn't make sense to me, Grubb. It doesn't make sense.
They've
had success in the single player games market, and suddenly they're like, nah, it's not working. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
No, fuck.
We look at it like Dead Space did pretty well. I think both the Star Wars Jedi games did very well. They started working on Star Wars Jedi, the third one, immediately after the second one, because they're like, and that was the thing. It's like, if Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order or Star Wars Jedi Survivor, if that does well, then we'll do a third one. And they immediately started working on it because everyone internally was like, this did well. But like, if you look at EA as a whole, like their financials do look a little bit grim, because it all goes back to Apex Legends, like overstating that, and the fact that for years now, Battlefield has been lost in the woods. And so Apex Legends was already covering, it was already doing it like, okay, we're going to make money for ourselves and we're going to cover the missing money from Battlefield. They had already done the creative accounting there. The creative accounting might sound illegal. It wasn't illegal. They were just like leaving out Battlefield when they were talking to investors and be like, look how good Apex Legends is doing. And saying, don't look at the man behind the curtain, which was Battlefield just floundering. And so, and that worked. That worked for a while. And now now they have to be like, Apex Legends is covering for every fucking thing here, and it's like it no longer is. It is on the decline. So that live service games continue to be a meal ticket, and it kind of continues to be a little bit of an albatross. Where as goes these one or two big games these publishers have, so goes everything, and then the studios at the bottom Or BioWare studio at the bottom of EA now. It feels like 250 employees. It's kind of relatively smaller. Yeah, it's going to pay the price, and here we are.
Just thinking of BioWare being like a bottom tier studio at a publisher just seems insane.
Yep, but I mean, it's
like I just Grubb like 5-6 years ago, we walking around downtown San Francisco, you would see so many nerds rocking that N7 hoodie.
Yeah, I believe it.
One of those nerds being Lucy James.
Yeah, I'm ready for more Mass Effect. I hope I've never been a Dragon Age guy. I would like to get into it. I have nothing against it, but I know from covering this stuff how many people are so passionate about everything BioWare. And it feels like, that's why the studio continues to be around, it seems like. But, I don't know, coming out of this, I can only imagine, as Dean says in his story, morale going to take a big hit. And what does that do to the future of those games?
Grubb, like I'm looking at EA's website right now under their latest releases. In my head, there's only really 3 single-player games, four proper single-player games, compared to everything else, which is either games, live service games, or some type of multiplayer game. The newest one being Immortals of Avium, which, you know what? It's not that bad.
No, yeah, it's fine. I think everyone agrees it's kind of it's fine. Like I think its tone rubs a lot of people the wrong way, especially rub Dan the wrong way. And it's like, I'm glad to know that, like someone like Dan going in there and finding out that the game's fine, but it's really not for me for these reasons. And so, yeah, I mean even that though, that's an EA partner game, an externally developed thing that they are publishing. And EA partners program games have done very well in the past. Obviously, the biggest one being It Takes Two, which was a massive success for EA and for the studio that makes it. Immortals of Avium doesn't seem like it's going to be able to replicate that, but you could also see like, man, maybe they do Immortals of Avium 2 and it does work and they iron out these kinks, but I don't know.
It looks pretty, Yeah. It looks pretty.
It looks like a big, expensive video game, and a lot of people want that. So, I don't know.
You know what? I think that they need to market it like that.
Yes,
Grubb,
that is what they need to do. Yes.
Exactly. Like these people, we've talked about this multiple times, people that bought a PS5 for Harry Potter don't have anything to play with it, or they're waiting for Spider-Man. Immortals of Avium is that type of flashy shit the populace wants.
Yep.
That's why EDM hits, because of the flashy shit.
Yes, it does. All right, you know what? We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about all of the stuff Phil Spencer said over at GamesCom. A fan favorite, one of my favorites, is getting remade by Night Dive Studios. We're getting all of that after this. All right, we're back, and Phil Spencer did a big interview over at IGN where he had a lot to say. Let's start here, and quick shout out to Tom the Machine Ivan, who's just going to basically do every single one of these stories. He must have been stuck at home while everyone else from VGC went to Gamescom. So shout out to the Machine. Xbox exec says Starfield kicks off a multi-year relay race of first-party titles. An Xbox executive has said Starfield's release is like a starting gun for a steady stream of first-party titles. With the likes of Redfield and Starfield delayed to 2023, last year was quite a slow year for Xbox releases, and the launch of Arcane's vampire shooter in May was ultimately very disappointing. And that's according to Microsoft's head of gaming, Phil Spencer. Meanwhile, Xbox Chief Marketing Officer Jarrett West told GamesIndustry.biz that he's super excited about the regular releases the company has planned following Starfield's arrival on September 6th. This is, in my mind, the doorway, almost like a starting gun, to what I think is going to be a multi-year relay race of first-party titles, he said. I was sitting there watching the same Starfield presentation you were this morning, and I was like, this is really the start of something that's going to lead to Forza. Then in 24, as we go to Hellblade, and we think about Towerborn, which is on the show floor, we think about Avowed, and we've got stories we haven't told yet that are going to be unfurled in 2024 and 2025. And then if you layer in also Game Pass and third-party relationships that we have, I think we are entering a period that is the beginning of something that is going to be really special over the course of the next several years. Jan, this is something that I think we have been hearing and hoping for from Xbox for 5 years or something like that. Are we there?
It feels like we're finally approaching it. It doesn't feel like a complete baton pass. It feels like we're still warming up and they're setting out the course.
Yes.
Type of deal. Like they will the puzzle pieces have been lined up, and let's see if we could stick the landing. It's exciting to think about. You know, I'm excited and I'm happy for the folks that have chosen Xbox as their console of choice and only ever want to get that and don't want to branch out to anything else. Because hey, those people have been starving.
Yeah. And it's this Jarrett West here is doing very much like that meme of the masculine urge to say we're back 5 minutes after saying it's over. And it's like 5 years of saying it's over for Xbox. But if Starfield comes out and is a hit, I'm not going to blame them for being like, we're back. But it's not out. It's not a hit yet. You kind of need to prove that can happen and then begin that conversation, I think, a little bit more in earnest. Because, you know, I think if you take Redfall out, or if Redfall was a hit, they could have been saying, look, we were slowly building up for a while now with Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush, and then Redfall, or no Redfall, and then Starfield and Forza Motorsport. And it's like, but now we got to be like, well, we put out a couple of smaller good games, and then Redfall was a disaster, and so we had to reboot everything, and now the whole conversation went back to zero, and now we're waiting for Starfield again. So it's like, well, yeah, so Starfield could come out, and then any guarantees, like, I don't even remember what, Towerborn is that Belfry game. Okay, that's right. So yeah, like any of those games, though, yeah, we can get excited about them, you can have hopes for them, but there's just no guarantees that they're going to hit the way that they want them to at this point. So I don't blame people for getting excited. I know that this has been the plan from my Xbox to have 4 big first-party games per year. They've said that repeatedly. They said that to us on the couch at Giant Bomb at Summer Game Fest. I hope they get to that point, because I think that's what people expect from a big first-party publisher like Xbox.
Oh, 100%. I want everyone to succeed, Grubb.
Yep.
Yeah. Gosh, I keep forgetting Redfall came out this year.
Yeah. It's. I mean, what were some January games that came out or January, February, March? People were saying stuff. Someone said Dying Light 2, and I got worried that came out this year, and like that I was truly like falling off the face of the earth. But it's like, no, that was last year, thank God. But Dead Island 2 did come out this year.
That was fun.
Yeah, and that's a good one. That's a fun one. Hi-Fi Rush, of course, yes. Wild Hearts, God, yeah. Are you for a remake? Oh, no one knows what that is. Rogue Legacy 2 did go 1.0 this year, didn't it?
Oh, geez, it did.
Yeah. Listen. We're playing Starfield. We can't talk about Starfield. We'll be able to do that August 31st. Look out for that at that point. Until then, though, I think Xbox kind of needs to be playing the humble game still. They need to just be like, hey, we are doing the work. We're giving the studios all of the effort or all the support they need, which is a change from what we did with Redfall. And we can't wait for you to see what that looks like. At the same time, this is the chief marketing officer of Xbox talking about this. So, of course, not too surprising.
Yeah. Grubb, Metroid Prime Remastered came out in February. Wasn't that weird?
Yeah, man, that's a good game, though. I should just replay that again. I think I played it twice.
No, you don't need to play that again.
Shit.
We got other stuff.
Damn it. All right, next story. Phil Spencer doesn't see a world where Xbox Series S has to miss out on some games. Once again, from the machine over at VGC. Xbox boss Phil Spencer said the company doesn't have any plans to allow the release of Xbox Series X exclusive games. It's currently a mandatory requirement for developers to ensure that their games are compatible with both Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S in order to release them for Microsoft's consoles. Some developers have argued that having to cater to Microsoft's entry-level console is limiting the potential of current-gen games. And the Xbox release of one of this year's most high-profile titles, Baldur's Gate 3, is currently being held up by technical issues encountered by developer Larian Studios, which has so far been unable to get its split-screen co-op mode to run to an acceptable level on Series S. On S, specifically, we designed the box with similarities to X and clear places where we're targeting a different performance, Spencer told Eurogamer on Wednesday. And we're taking feedback from devs, including Larian. I met with them today to talk about it, and I'm confident we're going to find a good solution and we're going to learn. I don't see a world where we drop S in terms of parity. I don't think you've heard from us or Larian that this was about parity. I think that's more that the community, what the community is talking about. There are features that ship on X today that do not ship on S, even from our own games, like ray tracing that works on X, it's not on S in certain games. So for an S customer, they've spent roughly half what the X customer bought. They understand it's not going to run the same way. I get what he's saying, but the issue does seem to be here that that split screen co-op is a feature that Larian would not be allowed to drop from the S version. They would have, if they're going to put that on the X version, it has to also be on the S, because that's a feature within the game, not a graphical feature, which are things that Xbox is okay with not including on the S. He goes on to say, I want to make sure games are available on both. That's our job as a platform holder, and we're committed to that with our partners. And I think we're going to get there with Larian, so I'm not overly worried about that, but we've learned some stuff through it. This is where he should be. This is where he should be, right, Jan? Where there's an issue with one specific games, one specific mode on Xbox Series S. That's annoying, and that takes some resources. But you need to send people over there. You need to go over there yourself, like you said you have, and figure this out, get it solved. If this is going to be a thing that you're going to have with Xbox, where you say this feature needs to be on both consoles. And if that's what they're doing, then great, get it solved, and then Baldur's Gate 3 will probably be on Xbox, sometime next year.
Yeah, I'd feel get in there, like roll up your sleeves.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's what he's doing. I think that's fine. Are you ever worried about like the Xbox Series S pulling down the scope of what games can be? Because for me, it continues to be that doesn't seem like what's happening in most cases. In most cases, it seems to be time and money are the big limiting factors, and Xbox Series S doesn't even become a factor in a lot of those cases.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's going to be a factor. And I feel like if they had to make the hard decision to say like, sorry, y'all, the S isn't going to work for these games, I feel like some of that audience would be like, well, all right, I'll go get the other one.
I do agree with that. I think you're right. Like,
it's weird that I feel like the Microsoft audience or the Xbox audience would be okay with that.
Yeah, I think you're right though that if they, in certain cases, like Baldur's Gate 3 is going to miss one mode on Xbox Series S, and the rest of the game is available on Xbox Series X. Of course, that's a slippery slope, right? If you start saying, oh, you don't have to put this one mode, you're going to get exceptions from all these studios in cases where they almost certainly could get it working on the S, and they're like, it's just less work, we could save money, we're worried about the X customers, they're more likely to buy our game anyhow. And I think that's what Phil Spencer's trying to avoid. And yet, I think if they made that change, if they changed that policy and let that happen, I think a lot of S owners would be like, I'll either stream it, which would be an option here pretty soon. Sure. I think in almost every case, or they would just get an Xbox Series X, as you were saying. All right, Xbox boss says current gen console prices won't come down like they used to. This is
that's how they're gonna get them, Grubb.
This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Shout outs to the machine. Microsoft's head of gaming has said the price of current gen consoles won't come down over time in the same way as other systems have in the past generations. And just real quick, we've been saying this on this show for years now. While previously it could be relatively cheap to buy console hardware at later stages of its lifespan because reduced manufacturing costs might be passed on to consumers, Xbox boss Phil Spencer told Eurogamer that's no longer the case. The prices aren't coming down, he said. We see it now, and that's why we did the Xbox Series S. I know there's a bunch of questions like, what is it doing? We wanted to make sure we had a sub $300 console because we want to grow, and we think an entry-level price point for many new families or players coming into the market is going to be important. Spencer added, for us, thinking about where our hardware is going and reaching more customers, price point is important. But you're not going to be able to start with a console that's $500 thinking it's going to get to $200. That won't happen because the core components that you use, you're used to Moore's Law shooting up and to the right, but your components, you can't buy them anymore as a hardware maker because nobody's making that kind of RAM or other components. It's not the way it used to be where you could take a spec and then ride it out over 10 years and ride that price point down. It's why you see console pricing relatively flat. And that's definitely part of it. Also, the part of it is I think they noticed that they can just keep selling consoles to the same audience over and over. And just by increasing the storage size or making a few other changes. And that's what they're going to do going forward. I mean, that's what Nintendo's been doing from the beginning.
Yep.
And that's what I think they're like, there's not a lot of reason to lower the price. The audience, the most price sensitive audience left console gaming a long time ago for mobile gaming, and they're not going to show up even if you were to sell an Xbox Series X for $100. So the idea that you're going to like work toward that point is not going to happen anymore. It makes a lot more sense to make premium feeling hardware that appeals to the people who are most likely to spend money on your hardware, and that is the same people over and over again, like me, the suckers like me. So it's like both sides of that coin there are true, and I'm not too surprised to hear him saying this. But at the same time, Jan, we have Sony working toward a potential Slim console that's coming out who knows when. It seems like still maybe later this year. I guess we'll find out. And then rumors of a Pro next year. And in that case, like, what is the pricing going to do over there? Do you expect Sony to like slide the price down, or will they continue slotting things in at like $400 and $500?
Well, I mean, we saw yesterday the little handheld thingy coming in at like $199. I feel like Sony is going to be comfortable slotting stuff in at slightly increasing prices of certain SKUs, but also just flying underneath the radar. We need to just blame Nintendo for this, Grubb.
Oh yeah,
this is Nintendo's fault because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it's never going to go on sale. You're never going to get that for sub 60.
Were you watching yesterday when I was wrapping up the show? The UK Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was #1 again in the UK last week.
What are they doing over there?
It's #1. It's the best. It's the best-selling game in 2023.
But Grubb, I think you nailed it on the head though about mobile games being such a growing market, and folks that previously were all about console games or whatever, bouncing off of that and finding a different home on mobile because, you know, there are a million knockoff games of AAA titles.
Yeah, I mean, like the people that would have bought PlayStation 2 at $99 to continue playing the FIFA games that were coming out for years and years on there, they are not buying those consoles late in the cycle anymore. They are just playing on FIFA mobile on their iPads. And so, of course they are. Like that's yeah. It's equivalent. It gets what they want, and they don't even care about the differences. So and like there's all the gotcha stuff, and there's all like the microtransactions, but no one thinks, like in most of these cases, no one's really thinking about that. They are thinking about the upfront cost. That's the big barrier to entry, and if that is zero, that is the path of least resistance, and that's where they're going to go.
Wow, we should make a gotcha or something.
And that's capitalism at work. You see Jan's just head click over. It's like, we can get them. We can get them. Get the
Did
money.
You see, like, I'm thinking about it, Grubb, right? These people, they don't want to pay the $300, $500 and then the $60, $70 to get in the door, play the game. But over time, they will spend so much money. I'm thinking about these hooligans who've played Pokemon Go since the very start. I'm thinking of my poor partner and how much money Niantic has swindled out of not just her, but this whole household.
Catapus in chat says, Jan has gone agile. Watch out.
Just wait. Just wait, folks. As soon as I fire up Unity or Unreal Engine, whichever one we're on.
Hey, why not? But let's do both. Let's make a game with both. I don't care anymore.
There we go.
Yeah, so this sounds right. We saw clearly the evidence is there before our eyes. Like the Switch has never gone down in price. In fact, they found a way to increase the price with the OLED. The PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4 really even, like, yeah, they lowered the price of like the Slim model a little bit, but they replaced it with the PS4 Pro to keep that at $400 the entire generation. PlayStation has in the past been very sort of, this has been one of their weapons, one of their cudgels. And it does feel like they are wielding that right now, because there's been price cuts consistently over the last couple of weeks in Europe for the PlayStation 5. And part of that is, it definitely feels like them trying to clear stock in preparation for a Slim. But it's hard not to read it as PlayStation being like, we lost the Activision thing. Let's just fucking hurt Microsoft as hard as we can while we can right now, and build such a lead up that there's nothing Microsoft can do about it. And that goes back to the beginning of Sony's PlayStation, where they came in $299, announced the price $100 less than the Sega Saturn, and then every time Sega tried to cut the Saturn price, Sony's like, nope, we'll make it cheaper because ours is way less. It costs a lot less money to make a PlayStation than it does to make a Saturn. So we have all of this headroom that we could just keep undercutting Sega. And now we're causing Sega to lose money on their hardware. And it was like Sony just using this really great scheme of putting Sega in this really tough position. And then next thing we know, goodbye Sega, no more Sega hardware. I think Sony knows that is always a weapon it could wield, and it feels like it's doing it right now. But at the same time, PlayStation needs to be making money for Sony, and that it is their breadwinner right now. And so I don't think that they're going to give up a lot of ground on the pricing when they already got away with a price increase on the PlayStation 5. It's like if they can get away with that, they're going to keep getting away with it.
I think just seeing this constant jabbing just reminds me of WWE versus AEW, just constantly making moves and saying like, no, we don't care about them. Like, no, they're not in our view. We don't think about them in our scope. Meanwhile, here's like 3 very specific moves to try and F over the other team.
Yep, it's pretty transparent, I think. All right, sticking with Phil Spencer and Xbox. Xbox boss would love to find solutions so games aren't lost when the 360 store closes. This comes from Tom the Machine Ivan at VGC once again. Microsoft's head of gaming has said he'd like to find ways to ensure that hundreds of Xbox 360 titles aren't lost when the console's digital store closes next year. Although users will still be able to re-download their previous purchases for the foreseeable future, Microsoft recently announced that after the July 29th, 2024 closure date, it will no longer be possible to buy any more games or DLC from the Xbox 360 marketplace. While many of these games will still be playable via other means, around 220 of them will essentially disappear forever, recent VGC analysis showed. Xbox boss Phil Spencer has since addressed this in an interview with Eurogamer, in which he said he'd love to find solutions allowing those games to remain playable. There's a list of 220 games that are not back compat, and I have that list, and I've got it stapled on my forehead. And like, how can we make sure you could still play them? He said. How many of those are on PC? That's one thing, because it doesn't necessarily mean you need to be able to play it on the existing hardware that you bought 15 years ago. But preservation is front and center when all of these decisions are made. I will say that for us, that preservation that's linked to only one piece of hardware is a challenge, because there can be a hardware love as well, people who love and want this device to go on forever, but mechanical things will break over time. But that's why we gave people this decision. That's why we gave people with this decision a year. I don't. This is a typo or something. Let's say, hey, if you want to go buy things in the 360 store, we're going to give you a year head start. That's what he's getting at, and you can go get those things. And just know that the list of 220 games is something that we see, and we would love to find solutions for those games to continue to play. I think I believe him. I also think that the unsaid thing there is we would love to find solutions, and those solutions are not obvious, and a lot of things stand in the way, including lawyers for probably a lot of them, because it's like, who owns the rights? Who do we contact to get permission to do backward compatibility with them? If that was easy, they would have already done it in most of those cases, I think. So it's like, okay, well, it's hard. Some things are hard. You should still find a way. I think that he's trying to say that they will look at a way. I just don't know. How much does this get prioritized, Jan? Probably not very highly, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. I know that we were pretty light when we initially talked about this story of like, oh, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But then thinking about how many Xbox Live Arcade games are probably going to get lost or tossed to the wayside is a big bummer. And, just speaks to the continued talks of game preservation. I also feel terrible for someone like Gerard. The completionist.
This is going to kill him. This is going to kill him. We have to stop him.
Yeah, someone please unplug all of his cables.
Yeah, just lock him up for his own safety until we can just have a talk with him and make sure he doesn't do this.
Yeah, for folks that don't know, when they were closing the eShop, how many games did he download and then try and finish? Or
I can't remember how many games, but I think it was something like $16,000 or $26,000 worth of games. And the way the Nintendo store, the eShop worked, was you couldn't do it in batches, and you could only add so much money per day. So they were just constantly, for days and weeks at a time, buying games on the eShop one at a time, and then waiting for that slow-ass shit network to download those games. That it was excruciating, and they made their video like snappy and entertaining, and it was excruciating. Imagine living through it in real time.
Oh boy. Oh no.
Yeah,
Don't
Marino says it was basically
it.
a full-time job. Yes, that's what they said. He like dedicated several of his staff to full-time downloading those games. And yeah, this seems like this could be pretty similar. All right, let's keep going here. Call of Duty won't appear on Game Pass immediately if Activision Blizzard deal closes. This comes from Haley Williams at GameSpot. With Microsoft's massive deal to acquire Activision Blizzard looking more and more likely to come, it's time to start looking at what it will actually mean for the industry. In a new interview with IGN, Phil Spencer has tempered expectations around Activision Blizzard games on Game Pass, warning that there is work to actually move games to Game Pass. People think that the deal is going to close and everything's available on Game Pass. That's not true, Spencer said when answering a question about Call of Duty coming to Microsoft's subscription gaming service. There's work for us to go through, just mechanical work. It will take us time to get the games up. He adds that the delay isn't specific to Activision Blizzard acquisition, noting that Microsoft's previous acquisitions have always required time to get native games up on Game Pass. Looking back to Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda in 2021, it definitely didn't take long before Bethesda games started appearing on Game Pass, with 20 titles from the studio's back catalog added just 3 days after the deal was finished. During the interview, Spencer was careful to avoid going into specifics about Call of Duty on Game Pass, bringing the topic back to discussing Microsoft's proposed deal with Ubisoft and how it relates to ongoing negotiations with the UK CMA. I think that this will probably still happen pretty quickly after the deal closes. Day one, no, I don't think I was ever expecting that. But day three still feels like day one in like the grand scheme of things, right? So if it happens a week or two later, that's still gonna be like the deal just closed. And when we look back in time, it'll be like, remember when the deal closed and then we got those games on Game Pass right away? There could be other factors here. I mean, he says mechanical things, but some of these games might have lingering contractual obligations. You never know. But I expect the older games will show up on Game Pass pretty quickly. And that's something they would want to make happen. So I think they would prioritize that, Jan, right?
Yeah, because they're going to do like a multi-prong, triple-prong approach to this where they will sell you the collector's edition, special edition for early access. And then that'll be like, a week earlier. And then they'll sell it to you on launch day. And then if you have Game Pass, you have to wait like a week. So they're going to get like 3 separate launches out of this.
Yep.
So many prongs. A trident, I guess. That's only 3 prongs. That's not as weird.
I don't know. That feels like if I had three prongs coming out of me, I'd be like, that's too many prongs. So, I suppose I do. Never mind. Okay. Cosmat says that chances that they'll do what they did with Halo and make Call of Duty multiplayer free to play. I think in the view of Activision, in the view of Microsoft going forward, they have that already. It's called Warzone. I think that they will continue to be like, that is the free-to-play Call of Duty or Call of Duty Mobile, and the traditionally premium-priced Call of Duty multiplayer will continue to be that. I expect that's how it'll work. All right. When will Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy 16 come to Xbox? Well, Phil Spencer can't say that yet.
When, Phil?
This is from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. Years after its PlayStation release and its eventual PC port, Final Fantasy VII Remake still isn't on Xbox. Final Fantasy 16 ended up being a PlayStation 5 console exclusive as well. When will Xbox fans finally get to play these hit RPGs on their game system of choice? That's what IGN asked Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer at GamesCom 2023. I'm not going to push them, he replied. Square Enix is going to have to find their own rhythm. A PC version of Final Fantasy 16 has already been confirmed, and an Xbox version has been rumored to be a likely possibility at some point following the end of a console exclusivity agreement with Sony. Will that be 6 months from now or years? Final Fantasy VII Remake still hasn't come to Microsoft's platform, even with its sequel, Rebirth, right around the corner. Spencer spoke about the nuances and slow burn nature of trying to build up Xbox's relationship with Square Enix in a recent interview with IGN. I recognize that when people buy an Xbox, they want to make sure that great games that they want to play are coming. He said. The veteran executive added that he and corporate VP Sarah Bond have flown out to Tokyo, Japan, to have conversations with the RPG publisher, and that it was a big deal for the company's new CEO, Takahashi Kiryu, and Final Fantasy director Naoki Yoshida to commit to that platform on stage at the recent Final Fantasy XIV Fan Fest, something we talked about on this show, where Phil Spencer's tried to, thaw the icy relationship there a little bit. And it seems like they're making progress. Breaking news, everybody. Breaking news. We coming in from our reporter in the field, Mike Benani. Go ahead.
Mike, what's the weather like over there?
The weather is Ohio. But in the news, Larian has said that it no longer will bring split screen to Series S after a meeting with Mr. Phil Spencer today. So that's what they came to, actually, is they're just not going to do that anymore. So there you go. That's what they did.
So reading from the tweet here, super happy to confirm that after meeting with Xbox Phil Spencer, thank you so much,
Thanks,
Mike. Appreciated that. Yesterday, we found a solution that allows us to bring Baldur's Gate 3 to Xbox players this year still, something we've been working toward for quite some time. All improvements will be there with split screen co-op on Xbox Series X. Series S will not feature split screen co-op, but will also include cross-save progression between Steam and Xbox Series. This feels like the right solution, right? Because I do think that Series S, like you said it, Series S fans will miss out on some things and they'll go like, oh, okay, I guess I did pay less money for this thing. I think this is right. And I mean, Xbox Series S, if you're getting, like, you could feel split screen co-op still feels like a graphical option, right? Because it's like you're now you have two games running at the same time on one screen. Like, it's got to render everything twice or render different parts of the world. That feels like it's in that purview. So this coming to this agreement, I mean, it's not ideal. Of course, in the ideal world is they get everything running on both systems perfectly, but that doesn't seem like would have been an option here. And so, hey, this is exciting. And this game's coming out this year now to Xbox.
I want to see the people that will complain about this. I want to see them.
Yeah,
I want to meet them.
Right, and it's I can't. I'm trying to think. Like, I think Xbox Series S fans won't be like. I think they'll just be like, "Oh, I get to play that game. Sweet. I wasn't going to play it split screen." That's like a small number of people anyhow that would have been taking advantage of that. And if you really want to take advantage of that, there's a system for you. It's the Xbox Series X. I think there will be people that complain and be like, I thought the Xbox Series S was supposed to be a next-gen system, and those will be called fanboys and weirdos, and we don't actually have to listen to any of them.
It's I think of the Xbox Series S as a Toyota Camry, right?
Yes. It's gonna get you to work.
It's gonna get you to work. It's not gonna get you through the mud or through, like, 2 feet of water if there's flooding on a highway, but there's going to be people upset that it won't still, despite knowing the limitations of a Toyota Camry. It's like, Jesus Christ, like I can't suddenly go up this steep ass hill anymore. What the fuck, Toyota Camry?
Okay, well,
meanwhile, other people be like, I've had this Toyota Camry for years, hasn't failed me since.
This Brady just said this, and this was what I was going to ask you. Jan, you don't have a next-gen Xbox yet. Does hearing this make it less likely that you would consider an S? I don't know how likely you would have considered an S before this, but does this make it less likely?
Less likely. Also, the stupidest thing to make it less likely for me to get an S is I don't believe the Xbox Series S has the fun wraps available. I think it's only for the X.
Hell yeah, let's go. Oh, Jan, that rules. I'm so glad you just said that. That's incredible.
I'm gonna be honest, Grubb. I want a stupid wrap.
So good.
It's so good. As soon as Bailey on the Bombcast mentioned she was mesmerized by that GIF, I too was mesmerized by that GIF.
I've been thinking about that GIF nonstop. Oh, that's good stuff. All right, let's keep rolling along here. A couple more stories. Star Wars Dark Forces is getting a new remaster. I missed this yesterday. I was so wrapped up in Turok 3. This is from Jorn Jang at GameSpot. Night Dive Studios has announced that it's developing a remaster of Star Wars Dark Forces for PC, PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. While Night Dive Studios didn't reveal a release date just yet, the studio will announce it later this year. The port, officially and befittingly titled Star Wars Dark Forces Remaster, will include many new modern features such as 4K resolution and 120 frame rate support, depending on the platform. There will also be advanced 3D rendering, modern gamepad support, as well as achievements. The game looks great. I might actually have it here, but Dark Forces is one that I was already replaying with like a fan update, fan remaster, and that's fantastic. I know Mike replayed it this year doing that same thing. And so this game already holds up. It's one of the better Doom clones of that time. I am very excited about this, Jan.
Oh, cool. It's a Star Wars boomer shooter.
It's a Star Wars boomer shooter. That's right. We're finally getting our representation. Star Wars finally getting a video game.
Is Kyle Katarn in this one?
This is the Kyle Katarn series, yes. So you play as Kyle Katarn before he knows he's a Jedi, yeah.
Yo, okay, cool.
Maybe
Sign
he
me
finds out by
up.
the end of this game. I can't remember, but let's see. I'm gonna show it off a little bit because it does look pretty good what they've done here.
Folks, don't laugh at me. I was about to start preschool when this game came out.
You can see like some of the like updates they even made to the cutscenes, which they don't look like old cutscenes, which is like you're not always going to get that from a remaster where it's they're like, we'll just use the old video files. It looks like they did some work there as well, and I don't know. I don't know what went into making those cutscenes, so maybe that was relatively easy for them to pull off. Either way, though, this is Night Dive at their best. Just taking those old boomer shooters and making sure that we get a chance to play them in a new and great way. And they just haven't really missed on the shooter side of things. They did that one kind of bum port of Blade Runner, the point and click adventure game. And that, I think they've made some fixes to that, and it's fine. But when any of these boomer shooters, they've just nailed them. Like Power Slave and Doom and all that. Doom 64, I think they did. So very excited about this. All right, let's see here. Denuvo is coming to Switch. This is from Nintendo Everything. Denuvo, which is associated with security for video games, is now offering its protection technologies through the Nintendo Developer Portal as authorized Switch middleware. This is apparently the first security partner on the portal, and developers can access the official Nintendo Switch emulator protection now. Denuvo says it's a revolutionary technology to protect games launching on Nintendo Switch from piracy. The company points out that in the past, it's been possible a Switch title to be emulated from day one and played on PC, therefore bypassing the strong protections offered on the PC version. Further stated, the Nintendo Switch emulator protection will ensure that anyone wishing to play the game has to buy a legitimate copy. This is Denuvo for Switch, so it's like we don't know for sure what this will look like. Denuvo has always said in the past that we don't affect performance. It's seen multiple times. It's been proven to probably not be true. If you're putting Denuvo on Switch and it affects performance, a system that can spare no performance, that's going to be frustrating. At the same time, I'm not surprised that something like this is happening on the Switch, a system that is now been cracked wide open, and especially for PC emulation, having a solution for that, I bet a lot of developers are going to take advantage of this, Jan.
You're right. And I just think we're so late into the Switch's life cycle that it's like, why care? What does it matter at this point? You're already working on whatever you're working on. But I understand why this would be put in place. Doesn't mean I like it.
Sorry, kiddo just told me that there's a spider over there I got to get for her. And I'll handle that very soon, kiddo. I know a lot of people who emulate Switch games on PC. So yeah, what were you going to say?
Well, Dougfoot points this out in chat here. Is this maybe not really for the Switch, but more of a test run of Denuvo on the Switch 2?
I expect Denuvo to be there on day one for Switch 2. Yeah. Yes, I think this is part of that. But Nintendo's also going to have its own suite of anti-piracy stuff ready to go for the Switch 2, like it always has for its new systems. So that'd only be one small part of it, for sure. But this is definitely about the Switch right now. The Switch is not done. It's a big, huge selling system that sells a lot of software. Developers are going to be interested in this. Nintendo's going to be interested in this. So yeah, it's about selling games right now. Finally, AEW Fight Forever's 30-player mode is out, and it's kind of coming at a time when the AEW Fight Forever needed something new to get people in, because it's a 30-player mode, and for example, VGC points out that the concurrent players on Steam was below 30 players. It's like, so there's not even enough people at some times to fill out one of these matches on Steam. Now, of course, that we could look today. Maybe it's maybe they has more than 30 players now that this new mode is out. I don't know. We'll see. I don't expect this to change this game's fate in any real way. At the same time, I would love to try this. I would love to have this mode work out.
I too would like to try it. That just seems like a bummer. I feel like there was just a lot of stuff going. I don't want to say wrong, but hampered the release of AEW Fight Forever.
I don't know if it has crossplay. Ideally, it would, but I don't know if it does, because it's like, man, I would love to do a game night of this where we get everyone on there and play this game.
Right.
But if we do that and we can't even get into like one thing loading because we're gonna play on Steam, and people are like, well, I have it on PS5. So we can't even play together. So it's like, okay, I guess we'll just play with the people who have it on Steam. And it's like, not many people do. So we have 7 of us playing, and then that's it. And it's like, yeah, that's not ideal. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. I hope that that they are able to stick with this game and be like, no, we recognize that it's not this massive hit out of the gate, but maybe we can keep supporting it and show people that we will support it for years, so that when we put out an AEW Fight Forever 2, they're like, oh, I know this is a game. Hey, look, all the features that are here this time, and we know that the support's going to be there for 2-3 years, and they're going to keep adding wrestlers, so I don't have to buy a new game every year. That would be cool. Also, they have their biggest, what feels like one of their biggest pay-per-views ever this weekend.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully they could carry some of the momentum into the game after that. We'll see. I bet we hear about AEW Fight Forever during that pay-per-view. So
yes, it is going to be said at least once or twice. But they need to put our guy Evil Uno in this goddamn video game.
Right.
That's why. That's what the people want. It's what the people need.
That's been the big issue so far. I think I truly, deeply believe that. All right. Got a poll from yesterday somewhere over here. I'm going to get it going right there. I'll fade it up and scroll on down. Are you getting the PlayStation Portal for $200? I'm going to vote yes right now in front of your very eyes. The results are 6% said yes, 12% said I'll wait for a sale, and 83% said no. Jan, I'm definitely a yes, but I've always said that's because I'm a freak for these things. Any chance you get one?
I too am a freak for these things, and I love a good let me lay in bed type of solution.
Yes.
Ayo. But the stuff you were listing off yesterday on Game Mess with Mike, it's just like, well, why isn't it going to do that? Why won't it do that? It makes sense.
You can stream it outside the house. It does work exactly like any other PlayStation remote play situation, but Sony isn't marketing that because they don't want that to be a selling point, because I bet they expect people to try that and it won't work very well because you're still streaming from your own PS5 in your home. And then it's like Sony can't control that environment in any way. So if something goes wrong and they're like, you said that I could play this outside the house. Now you need to provide customer support for me to get that working. And the customer support's going to be like, buy a better router, dipshit. And it's like that. What can they do about that? So they're not even going to make that a thing. So if someone calls and says, hey, it's not working outside the house, they could say, well, it's not designed to do that. We're sorry. Goodbye. Do you have any other questions? So I don't blame them for presenting things that way. That said, streaming from the cloud, like that. Yeah. I don't get that one at all.
That's the big thing where, like, this feels like that's what this thing was built in mind with, but I guess not. I don't know. Not. Grubb, I need to bring everyone's attention to something that was brought to my attention earlier in this episode. Apparently there's like an anime looking game with anime men and ladies.
That doesn't sound likely.
That is just Spider-Man.
What, really?
But with anime ladies.
Wait, is it like officially licensed?
Oh, no, it's not. When I say like Spider-Man, I'm like, because there are people swinging around like Spider-Man.
But does it look like the new Spider-Man video game?
The swinging definitely looks like it was pulled out of a Spider-Man game. Project Mugen for folks. Hello.
Project Mugen?
Yes, I will drop the trailer in the chat
12
here.
hours ago. I got a trailer right here. Let me line it up for people.
Oh, and there's guns.
Okay, cool. Oh, she's spray painting. It's from a studio called Naked Rain. That's fun. Okay, yeah. I'm already kind of seeing it. Like they've got the...
Oh, there may be psyops in it too. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh my God, look at that swinging.
Look at that. Tell me that flippy doobie.
It's Genshin Spider-Man. This is, man, you know what? I love that we live in this world where we get big, expensive video games, and then a couple years later, we get the anime ripoff of it. And I use ripoff lovingly. I think video game clones are mostly a good thing. There's obviously situations where they're not, like Threes versus 2048, and that was very frustrating. Where like, Threes just got completely squashed by all those other ones. Threes did fine, I'm sure, but it's like that felt unfair. But in most cases, it's like, no, this is how gaming has always worked. I always say, like, the second video game, like, it was video game, and then the second video game was a clone of the first one. Like, that's what turned it into video games. So it's kind of hard to avoid this. That's a big lady.
Hey, you know, Project Naked, whatever, Naked Rain, whatever, they got me.
Rain. Yes, absolutely. I lean away from the mic to breathe hard for Naked Rain. All right, we got a new poll going up on Giant Bomb's YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/giantbomb, and there on the community tab, you can find this poll. Are you excited for Xbox's release schedule after Starfield? Yes, there's a lot. Yes, one or two things. No, there's nothing. No, I'm completely focused on Starfield. Go ahead and vote on that, and we'll discuss it on Giant Bomb's Game S Mornings tomorrow. Speaking of Giant Bomb, what do we have going on this week, Jan?
Not immediately, or maybe immediately after this, we will have a trailer park roundup of everything that we were at least mildly interested in from opening night live.
Yep.
Voicemail dump truck later today. Another episode of Game S Mornings tomorrow. And UPF, I believe we're doing it earlier again.
Yes.
Right?
That's the plan. Yes, I think so. And real quick, if anyone's got a playlist that has all of the trailers from opening night live in order, you can send that to me. Otherwise, I'll get that put together real quick. All right.
Ooh.
Yeah, what's up?
Also later today, we'll be dropping a quick look for one of the big games.
Yes, that's right. That'll be happening. I'm going to try to record a couple more quick looks. We got stuff happen earlier next year. All right. We're going to wrap this up. Thanks for hanging out with me, Jan. I really appreciate it.
My favorite type of Thursday.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself. And Naked Rain.
Naked Rain.